Well, so and welcome to the first Cardiff Conversation. You're probably wondering, why are you here? What are we doing this evening? So I should explain myself. My name's Adele Blakebrough, and many years ago, I was an ordained Baptist minister, and I was in pastoral charge for about 17 years. And the secret about retired ministers is that no church really wants one in their congregation. And also, because we're so picky, retired ministers, we don't suit many churches. And so I've been on a quest to find a place where I actually feel at home. And 2 years ago, just over 2 years ago, somebody suggested, I think it was my husband actually, that I just give this church a go. And so I walked in on a Sunday morning, and I really liked it, and I liked the people most of all. And so I started to come, and the people got better and better the more you got to know them. And what's the secret for me of a good church? It is an open church, one that's really welcoming and open to everybody, and we mean everybody, and has a quest for social justice at its heart, so is concerned with the issues that surround this church: homelessness, drug misuse, alcoholism. This church needs to be serving those people. A place where you just feel that there's going to be good conversation and thinking about important issues in life. And so I came in and I was welcomed, and that was fine. And then the church obviously had to close during COVID, and for a long time the services went online and then slowly began to open. And I don't know about you, but my experience of this place is that you've walked past it like I did 1,000 times, and you've never really seen it. And you've definitely not wanted to come in because there might have been strange things going on in this church, and you might have thought, I'd rather stay on the outside, thank you. So part of what this evening is about is to say this is a place that's a resource. Before COVID, there were organ recitals, other musical events. There was a cafe for many of the homeless people who come here, and it was a place of welcome. And that's what it wants to be again. And this is just one example of coming back to life, if you like. And so the people in the church, we're all incredibly excited because we're allowed to sit with 4 people in total, and we're allowed to have a drink, and we're allowed to have some food, and so it feels quite normal. And what we're reflecting on this evening is, what is it that we as individuals can do beyond our everyday jobs that have a good impact on our community or our society? And our 2 speakers this evening totally exemplify what can be done when you use your imagination and your tenacity and your ingenuity and put it to good purpose. So we hope you'll find them as inspiring as I find them. We will have a small break, and by small I mean 5 minutes maximum, comfort break. There are only 2 loos, so you'll have to stagger your times to my left. The exit, if there's any incident with fire or anything, is to our left and behind us. And then at the end, unfortunately, we can't congregate at the end. So at 8:30, we will just push you out the doors, as ruthlessly as that. But we hope that this will just be the first conversation of many. And this very fine organ behind me will play for 2.5 minutes precisely. Something amazing which will show the range of this particular organ. So we do hope you'll enjoy the evening. And we hope that everything works technologically, which probably means it won't. You were warned that the heating, the boiler's been playing up. I do hope you've got warm coats, and we do hope that you'll enjoy what we're going to do this evening. So thank you very much for coming. Thank you. Now, I do need to introduce, however, not the first speaker, but the person who is going to interview our first speaker, and that is Menna Richards. I know many of you will know her. She's currently the Vice President of the Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama, where she's also the Chair of Governors. Menna was a former controller of BBC Wales and a managing director of HDV Wales, but more than that, she's one of those great friends and great supporters, and so I'm really thrilled that she agreed to come and interview Tim-Rhys Evans for us this evening. So Menna, to you.
Wel, gyfeillion, croeso mawr I chi gyd. Tim, croeso mawr I ti.
Diolch.
Welcome to this, isn't it a beautiful church?
It's stunning, absolutely
yes.
stunning.
And we're very, very privileged to be here this evening. Now, many of you will know Tim, but I'm going to give you a bit of potted history. Tim is currently the Director of Music at the Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama. Many of you will have heard him talk about his work over the years, and so will know that he believes passionately in the transformative power of music. Tim, over many years, has put his skills, his talent, and his experience to tremendous effect, not only as a professional musician, but as someone whose vision, whose commitment, and his enthusiasm has quite literally changed lives. Now, Tim is the founder of Only Men Aloud and of the Aloud charity. And the Aloud charity runs Only Boys Aloud, Only Kids Aloud, which is boys and girls, and Aloud Girls. We're going to concentrate this evening on Tim's work with Only Boys Aloud, a network of choirs across Wales with hundreds of members, from Wrexham to Holyhead, from Cardigan to Caerphilly. In total, there are 15 Only Boys Aloud choirs, many of them in some of the most deprived areas of the country. And they give hundreds of young men and boys the opportunity to experience the life-changing power of music. So I'm looking forward to hearing from Tim how he's used his extraordinary talent to transform the lives of so many young people. But before that, a reminder. Some of you may remember that Only Boys Aloud got to the final of Britain's Got Talent in 2012. This is what it was like. A lot has happened since then, but I want to take you back to your own upbringing in Upadhyaya, in the Rhymney Valley. What was it about your experience growing up that made you so determined to begin something like Only Boys Aloud?
I mean, before Only Boys Aloud was on the scene, I started Only Men Aloud, which is a choir of young men, and my own upbringing, one of the first and one of the only real accesses that I had to live music was the local male choirs that would perform in my own chapel, which is also a Baptist chapel, Carmel Baptist Chapel in Upadhyaya. It was going to these concerts and seeing these male choirs that really ignited a passion in me. It was one I didn't realise at the time. It was only after I'd left home and got my degree and then my master's degree and was working in opera, and I realised that there was something in me which had a spark that had been lit back when I was 8 or 9 going to those concerts. With Only Men Aloud, there was just a group of mates. There were about 18 in the choir, different stages. We did a performance here not so long ago. And that was just for a bit of fun. We sang at people's weddings and things, and then we entered another reality television show called Last Choir Standing, and we won that. And it was really great. We had lots of millions of people watching us on TV. We had hundreds of thousands of people buying albums. Tens of thousands of people coming and seeing us live, and we were playing arenas, and it was really exciting. But there was always this thing about what have we actually done to advance the tradition of the Welsh male choir to make it really fit for a 21st century world? What are we doing to engage those young singers, boys like me? I think one of the main impetuses for starting Only Boys Aloud was that wanting to be a musician in a Valleys community was not a popular choice. When I was a kid, I was very badly bullied in school, and I wanted to create an environment where young men could go along and they could be entirely themselves, where they didn't have any fear of being judged, being thought of as weird or whatever. This was just creating an environment where boys could feel entirely at home to sing unashamedly. We started with 14 choirs, all in South Wales Valleys, and it was supposed to be a one-off concert at the opening concert at the Ebwy Eisteddfod in 2010. But we had 144 14 to 19-year-old boys who were part of that concert, and it was just quite obvious that this had to go on. And straight away from those early days, we saw boys who were just completely unashamed that they found a community. I think music has often attracted the outsiders, boys who were like myself, who were a little bit shy, a little bit introverted, and less confident. I was terrible on the sports pitch, but I knew that my mates in school, if they were going to the rugby club for a rugby practice, they sailed through life. So we made sure that all the rehearsals initially were held in rugby clubs, and we made it as much like a sporting model as possible. And it was a beautiful thing.
But boys in the South Wales Valleys, as you say, would probably find it quite difficult to take that first step to sing in a choir. But how did you make it as inclusive as possible? Did they have to be good singers to take part?
Absolutely not. And I'm really proud that this is still the ethos of Only Boys Aloud now. Nearly 12 years since we started it. There's no audition and there's no charge. So all you have to do to be a member of Only Boys Aloud is turn up. And yeah, it can be daunting, but I think if your mates see you going to a rugby club on a Tuesday night, that's fine. There are less loaded places, like if you're staying back at school, then you're a SWAT. If you're going to your local church choir, then that can often be a source of ridicule or people making fun. So with the number of boys in the choir who had never ever sung before was huge and still is. And for a lot of them, that was all they wanted to do. But for others, they wanted to go a bit further. But
you've sung, the boys have sung the BBC Proms, they've sung at Buckingham Palace, they've sung at the Merrion Gate. It's extraordinary the experiences they've had. I'm interested in how you got them to a standard. If lots of the boys didn't sing particularly well, how was it that they were good enough to have those experiences?
I think it's somebody believing in them. A lot of the boys have come from the care system or might have had difficult starts in life. They might have been very, very badly bullied in school. So I think the first thing you can do is just believe in these young people. I often say that if you were to see some of the only Boys Aloud lads in their hoodies on a street corner, you'd be forgiven for crossing the road. But actually, you engage with these lads. They are incredibly polite. They're great fun to be around, and I think also my experience with the boys was certainly very straightforward. I'm a bit of a disciplinarian in a rehearsal. I can't bear people talking. I can't. When we're here to work, and we never compromised on that. And I think if you have high expectations of young people, they will surpass them. If you have low expectations of anybody, they will fail to meet them. But just saying to the boys, no, we're going to do this. We are going to learn this piece. The first piece I arranged for them was Sosban Fach, the Welsh folk song. But I also wanted to teach the lads something about music theory. So that arrangement uses 5 different time signatures, 7/8, 5/4, 3/4, 2/4 and 4/4. And it's just changing every single bar. And we just taught, so I put little kind of italics under the rhythms, which were like bacon butty scrambled egg, bacon butty scrambled egg, which is 7/8. So you get boys speaking like this, and they just worked. And the other thing that I think was really, really important was the weekly rehearsals meant that they were developing these skills. They weren't only developing as singers, but their punctuality improved, the way they stood, the way they interacted with one another, the way they interacted with us, all improved. And pretty soon they got the bug of, oh yeah, actually, practice, I don't believe it ever makes perfect, but it certainly puts you in the right direction.
And you say that it doesn't matter if the boys are not good singers, but did you expect a particular level of educational achievement? Did they have to be able to read music, for instance?
No, absolutely not. We have always, and still, the boys sing from manuscript copies with music. And when we started, a number of people were saying, "Oh, can we just have lyric sheets?" And I said, "No. If reading music was difficult, I wouldn't be able to do it." And just the osmosis that occurs by just looking at these dots and realizing that if the dots are coloured in, then there are more of them in a bar, or they're shorter. If they have little legs, then that's different. And slowly something starts to go in. Just if the notes are higher on the stage, then the note that's what happens to the music. So no, there was absolutely no prerequisite. We had lads with additional learning needs, and absolutely everybody was welcome. We are in Wales. The Welsh accent, the Welsh language is it's often described as a sing-song. I think we speak on the vowels, and there is something in our culture that means we are freer, I think, to sing.
But I've heard your choirs sing not only in Welsh and English, but in Italian, Spanish, Urdu, German, Czech, and many other languages. It must be really hard for some of those boys to get to grips with those, and also not just the languages, but the range of music, from musical theatre to devotional music.
Yeah, I think one of the things we never did is told them that it was difficult. We just said, this is what we're going to learn. And yes, there was many times when I'm thinking, what on earth have I done? Why did I choose this piece of Janacek or a really complicated rhythmic piece of contemporary music or something? But we've never abandoned a piece just by plugging away at it. And I think that the tenacity that breeds amongst those young people is hopefully a skill that they will use in every aspect of their life.
You've talked a lot, and you continue to talk about the life-changing opportunities that being in Only Boys Aloud gave many of these boys. And we shouldn't forget, as we were saying earlier, that most of the choirs are in some of the most deprived parts of the country. So can you just give us a sense of how you think lives have changed because of membership of Only Boys Aloud?
Yeah, it does sound like a really bold claim, but I've just seen this happen time after time after time. Boys who are failing in school. I remember a headmaster writing to me very shortly after we'd started the choir. In fact, the boy, I was just watching him on that clip, and the headmaster saying, do you realise that you probably saved this young man's life? He was on a very, very different path, getting in trouble with the law and doing lots of things that he was taking him in a very dark direction. But he started engaging with the choir. His best friend in the choir had a very different start in life from him. You see these unlikely friendships happen, and what they learn about each other, how to cope with people who are different from. So we have boys who are openly gay. We have boys who are straight rugby players who are just best friends with lads who would never be seen dead on a sports pitch. But these beautiful friendships that occurred, and I think it goes back to that tenacity, that regular rehearsal, that thing that they just had to turn up. They had to be on time. They had to wear a tie. They had to learn how to tie a tie. I mean, it's amazing how many of those boys have no idea how to tie a tie. All of those things that just make those boys feel differently about themselves. And I'm just thinking now, I could name so many lads who are going in a very, very different direction. Not all in music, although interestingly, just looking at the two soloists there, the one is now a doctor, he's training to be a surgeon, and the other has just been in My Skin on BBC Three, and has been in the West End. Lots of them have gone into the performing arts, and many of them would have done that anyway, but a lot of them wouldn't have done because they hadn't been exposed to this. And I think I come from Upadhyaya, as I said earlier, and Upadhyaya is statistically the lowest house price in Wales, which must make it one of the lowest house prices in the UK. These communities, there are real challenges, and I think one of the most devastating things that happens in communities like Upadhyaya is this self-defeat that, I'm never going to do anything with my life, or so to be able to give them the opportunity of being on Britain's Got Talent, or to sing for the Queen's 60th Jubilee in the grounds of Buckingham Palace, or to launch a cruise ship, which they did, those experiences are not only things that they were nice things to happen. They change how those boys see themselves, and that confidence that makes them think, yes, maybe I will do A-levels, or maybe I will go into higher education, and just set them up with some transferable skills, which they will always use.
And now, Tim, you're Director of Music at the Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama, and I was at an opera gala there on Tuesday, and I recognised a number of former Only Boys Aloud members. You must be very proud to see them coming through the college and other music colleges. Absolutely.
I think we're now up to 21 boys, former members of Only Boys Aloud, who have gone on to study at the Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama and at Guildhall and at the Royal Academy. So pursuing their love of singing, but also acting. I don't know if any of you saw It's a Sin, the remarkable Russell T Davies Channel 4 programme about the AIDS epidemic. But Callum Howells, who played one of the three main characters in that, is a former member of Only Boys Aloud. He studied acting at the Royal Welsh College. We have some of the lads now who are studying scenic construction and design. But again, it's that being exposed to this world of the performing arts and lighting that fire that makes them want to take it further.
Tim, thank you very much for your contribution to the Boys Aloud College and here this evening too.
Diolch, Menna. I just want to say, Menna hasn't mentioned this, but she was the chair of the Aloud charity and has worked tirelessly for Only Boys Aloud, Only Kids Aloud Girls. Menna has also played a very big part in this.
Adele, have you got time for questions?
Yes.
Okay. Now then, would anybody like to ask you a question? Could you, if you do, could you identify yourself, please?
I work at Fitsalon High School. I know we've had a lot to do with you. I wondered if you could just talk a little bit about some of your outreach work that you've done.
So I don't know if everyone heard that. So this young man here works at Fitsalon High School, and I've done lots of work with the music department at Fitsalon. It's an amazing school. One of the things that I think when people see the Britain's Got Talent clip, they think either two things: we don't audition, we don't charge, so we can't be very good, or they think they see the Britain's Got Talent clip and they think I would never be good enough for that. And it's amazing how hard it is to get that message out, that this thing about you don't need talent, you don't need anything, you just need yourself to turn up. So with Aloud, we do a lot of work in schools. Before each term, we will go out and visit schools, do workshops, getting lads to come along and just try it. And also, in my new role as Director of Music at the college, it is absolutely crucial that we are making sure that those opportunities are out there. I was really lucky in school because I had a thriving county music system that was paid for by the local authority. I got on a free bus on a Saturday morning. It took me to Pontypridd, where I played with the Mintla Morecambe Youth Brass Band, and I sang with the Mintla Morecambe Youth Choir. And sorry to get political, but the cuts to music services and this the arts in general over the last 30 years have been devastating. So it is so important and incumbent upon us as the National Conservatoire of Wales, as the Aloud charity, to make sure that we are establishing this circle. One of the biggest joys that I had watching that clip, again, it's been a long time since I saw it, is that a number of those boys now work for the Aloud charity as conductors, and they are team captains. So it's creating that virtuous circle of training the trainers, making sure that it's not enough just to get there and okay, we're doing a really nice thing now. It's what about the next lot of people who are coming through? We've just completely rewritten our undergraduate degree at the Royal Welsh College, and there are three main areas in that. So each student will have to be examined on how they make music on themselves, on their principal instrument, but also how they make music with others. And then the third main area is how they make music with the community. And if we don't do that, we're not only depriving our young people of amazing opportunities, but we're also in great danger of losing something that is so fundamental to all of us in music.
Thank you, Tim. I think we've got time for one more question. If any, yes, I can see a hand up at the back.
Hello, Reba. That's a small question. it's really interesting. For those of you who might not be aware, the expressive arts curriculum that has just come in to all education in Wales, so from nursery aged children right the way through till 16. The expressive arts is an essential element of education. So every young person will have to engage with the arts. This really, really could be game-changing for us, and I'm delighted to see it. However, I'm having lots of conversations with schools who are really, really scared because they have to deliver this to all the young people. The curriculum is devised by the school, so they are answering the bespoke needs of that school. So I think the policy is great. What we have to make sure is that the support network, and I hate to say it, the funding is there, that we can make sure that this is a reality. It doesn't become a millstone and yet another thing which teachers have to do, because I think there's enormous pressure on teachers. I also think if we could just make sure that we don't forget that we are a land of song, that whether that's our rugby matches or whatever, any initiatives that can demystify singing, can remove any of the kind of stereotypes that people might think about choral singing. If we can get our nation singing again, any initiatives that could come from government to support that would be great. I was speaking to Elle from the Huggard Centre earlier, and about the potential for having choirs for homeless people. Singing is renowned and is medically proven to produce the same endorphins in the brain as chocolate and sex. So it can't be bad for anyone to just get those endorphins going, and you don't gain weight and you can do it in public. So I think just reconnecting with us as a nation that sings and sees our national anthem, Glad Beirdd a Chantorion, the second line of our anthem. We're a land of poets and singers. So I really hope that the expressive arts curriculum is going to do that, but it can't just stop at 16. We have to make sure that this is the case for people right the way through their lives.
Tim, with your vision and commitment, I think it won't be long before we might see some movement on that. Let's hope so. Tim, diolch yn fawr iawn.
Diolch i chdi. Diolch.
In charge here for the last 3 years, and it's a very happy thing in a priest's life that you move from place to place sometimes, and you get to meet different people in different situations, and it's a beautiful church. When I first looked at it when they were looking for a vicar, I came in and I sat at the back and I thought, it's really beautiful this. It's not too beautiful that you would be scared to breathe in it, but it's just beautiful enough. And the history of the place, because it's the second oldest building in Cardiff next to the castle. It's not strictly two, because bits of it have been burnt down and rebuilt, but the place in civic society, it's a great honour to be here. One of the things that I love about this Cardiff Conversation is that we've invited, maybe half of you are our community and half of you are the people that Adele and Ian and we have invited for your work in the arts and in the community. So I just want to finish this little bit by saying St. John's is a very inclusive place. No one will ever tell you what to think in this place. And we may be a holy place, but I like to think that anyone is welcome through the doors, whether they have a particular faith or none. And although we have walls, we need walls, it isn't like a holy ark. It's not a place where the selected come and be away from the world. We come in here to do what we do and to have our sense of community, but actually there are no real walls here for us because we're rooted in this place. We love the fact that we're in the absolute centre of Cardiff and we're all just part of the same community. So from our community, which is rooted here, to our special guests invited today, we see the good work that you do in the arts and upholding people and growing people throughout this amazing nation of Wales. And it's a great privilege to have our invited guests here, along with members of our own community. Because Wales is that kind of place. There is something very beautiful about it. And it's great that so many of you are involved in supporting people and nurturing them and doing intellectual and artistic things. And we like to think of St. John's as being part of that. We are a church, a place of religion and spirituality, but we're also a place of discourse and a place of culture. And so it's lovely to welcome each and every one of you here today. We do have Elle from the Huggard, and we're trying to link a bit more closely with the Huggard, and a lot of the people they support literally sit outside our gates, and we get to know them quite well. And we have members of Kaleidoscope, a drug and addiction charity, who at the moment are using one of our rooms upstairs for their very important work. So welcome to St. John's, and it's really good that we're all doing the same thing, really. We're all trying to build people up. Hope you enjoy being in this space, and you're all very welcome any time of the day that we're open, just to come in and have a few minutes peace. So it's our time now really to introduce our second guest, and many of you will know of Meena. Meena was born in India, and she had an arranged marriage. She joined her husband, who was an engineer, here in the United Kingdom. She studied for a bachelor's degree in biology in Delhi, a Master of Science in Edinburgh, and a doctorate, well, where else? Here in Cardiff. She completed a fellowship with the Royal College of Pathologists in 2000, becoming one of the first people to do so in the field of medical genetics. And Meena's been involved in identifying genetic mutations responsible for at least 2 diseases caused by genetic disorders. Over her career, she's authored more than 200 scientific articles, 4 textbooks, and received numerous awards, amongst them an OBE for services to medical genetics and the Welsh Asian community. She was listed as one of 100 Wales's most brilliant women by Wales Online. And Meena is also, along with her biological work, she's an advocate for women of ethnic minorities. She's the founder and chair of the Welsh Asian Women Achievement Awards, which is now the Ethnic Minority Welsh Women Achievement Association, and also the Ethnic Minority Women in Wealth Healthcare. She still sits on many committees and has a strong focus on equality, diversity, and of course academia. So Meena, welcome to St. John's. It was lovely to connect with you earlier in the week, and I believe you have a presentation to give us to start with, and then we'll come down and we'll have a chance to chat once you've done that. Is that okay?
Thank you.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, Meena.
Thank you very much, Sarah, for your very generous introduction. And I'm very pleased to be here. And thank you very much, Meena, for recommending me. So kind of you. So, I was born and brought up in India, as you heard. And I was one of 6 children. Sorry, is it?
If you just speak into the mic.
Okay.
I'll tell you what, I'll move it a bit closer.
No, sorry. I went to a mission school in Delhi, and then from there I joined Delhi University to do my degree in science. When I started my degree course, my arranged marriage took place. It was arranged by my parents, and I had not seen my husband before marriage, although he had seen me from a distance. We got married, and then he came back to. He was a student at Edinburgh University, so he came back to finish his studies, and I stayed back in Delhi to finish my studies. So after then I joined him in Edinburgh, and I have to admit, actually, I had no ambitions whatsoever when I came to Edinburgh. My 3 older sisters were my role model. They were happy to be housewives and bringing up their children. And I was bored sitting at home and spending a lot of time listening to Bollywood music. And I was also, I missed my family. So I was mesmerized by the departmental stores here in Edinburgh, and I asked my husband whether I could get a job in one of the stores. My request was instantly denied, as it was not a done thing in those days for women in my family to go out to work. So he suggested me to join the university for further studies. So I did. I joined Institute of Animal Genetics based in Edinburgh University for a master's degree. I realized I was pregnant. Although it was not planned, and I did not inform my supervisor about my pregnancy until I was 7 months pregnant. You see, Saris are good at hiding bumps. So then, when I informed him, he really fell off his chairs, because anyway, I continued with my studies. My daughter was born, and it was one of the happiest days of my life. And my husband was then transferred from Edinburgh to Cardiff, and we joined him after I had finished my master's degree. So that's me. I'm getting my daughter's. By the time I finished my studies, she was already a young lady. And then, so in Cardiff, I spent some quality time with my growing daughter. We fed ducks at Rev'd Lake, and we did a lot of interesting things together. And then I realized I wasn't really cut out to sit at home. I needed some more, some different exposure. And so when my daughter joined school, I started making inquiries at what used to be the Welsh National School of Medicine. I was offered a PhD in male infertility in the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology. It was a very interesting project, because during my study, I interviewed about 200 couples attending infertility clinic, and I then realized how desperate they were for a child, and I really wanted to make difference to these people's life through my research, and I became quite passionate, about my work. And anyway, so I finished my experimental work, and the very week when I started writing up my thesis, very unexpectedly, my husband died of massive heart attack. Now, that was a complete shock to me and my daughter. And in the next few years were a nightmare for us. At this point, not only did I have to think about bringing up my 7-year-old in a country which was still foreign to me, but at the same time, I had to think about my future and about completing my thesis. It was a very difficult time, and I was dependent on my husband for several things. You know, I had never paid any utility bills. I could drive a car, but you know, I had not realized that it needed road tax and insurance and you know, the MOT. So it was a very difficult time, and I found I was not able to concentrate on my thesis for over a year. Very depressed, and had lost a huge amount of weight. And then I realized that, you know, I really need to get back to my work. And gradually I resumed my studies with great determination, time management. I managed to get my PhD. And I remember while I was studying, my daughter commented to me on one occasion. She said, "Mom, do you ever sleep? Because I've never seen you sleeping." And it was just, I was forcing myself to work. It wasn't going in, but I just thought if I made an effort to sit down and just look at my books, at least even if I get 10% of it, that would be a big step. So that's where I was, and here is my PhD supervisor, Professor Brian Hibbert. This picture was taken 3 years ago, and sadly he died last month. Then I joined Institute of Medical Genetics as a postdoctorate fellow, and my very first project was on prenatal diagnosis in the first trimester. So prior to this this project, many women could only take a prenatal test at 16 weeks pregnancy, whereas this a particular test enabled them to take the test between 8 and 12 weeks of pregnancy. And this allowed these women to sort of make their own reproductive decision and empower them. And this was a very interesting project, and it was published in a high-profile journal. After that, as you heard, that I worked on one of the diseases which is very close to my heart, is neurofibromatosis type 1. And there are about 24,000 people in the UK who suffer from this condition. And it is characterized by the multiple benign tumors. They are called neurofibromas. And they can also have other problems. This is a big tumor, which is plexiform neurofibroma, and this is disfiguring. And the gene for this condition was cloned about 30 years ago, and still there's no treatment for it, although there are many ongoing clinical trials. My work on an NF1 has been, neurofibromatosis type 1 or NF1 has been sort of quite extensive, and you know, it became internationally known for various things. Now, one of the difficulties which many mothers here have faced is balancing family and work life. I would consider myself to be mother first, but if my daughter was here, she would emphatically deny. I found juggling between home life and work was quite taxing. School holidays were very difficult, and so I had to fit the school holidays and emergencies and sickness and everything with my work. And I did travel a lot, visiting different centers and giving talks. And I do regret that I did not spend enough time with my growing daughter. And I did miss many of her milestones' birthdays. So I do feel sorry about that. Having said that, despite all misgivings, my daughter, I'm very proud of my daughter. She finished her medical degree from Cardiff University, and then she trained as a GP in London. And afterwards, she went on to do an MBA and worked. She excelled in pharmaceutical industries in London and elsewhere. So this is the person behind my success, Professor Sir Peter Harper. When I first joined medical genetics, I was in a very fragile state, and Peter had more faith in me than I ever had in myself. And I remember he was invited to a conference in New York, and he asked me to represent him. I couldn't believe. I didn't sleep for a couple of nights, wondering how I'm going to do this. And he was very supportive. He knew my potential, and he encouraged me. And sadly, he died with COVID early this year as well. So I pay my tribute to him for his kindness. The longest time I've been away from home was 5 weeks at Salt Lake City in 1990, where I learned many cutting-edge technologies and brought them back to Cardiff. I also spent 1 whole month in Japan at Tokai University Medical School, learning a different technology. I also organized a get-together for Wales neurofibromatosis type 1 families. I must have done it for over 15 years. Every year we would invite them to our department for a tea party, and then we would update them about our research. And this was a wonderful interaction with patients, and they could ask us questions about different aspects of the disease and about the development, most recent research. And I have to admit that I have found it most rewarding part of my career was to interact with NF1 patients and to reassure them that we were doing our best for the treatment of their condition through our research. So, during my career and beyond, I faced multiple barriers, including gender, discrimination on gender, language, culture, religion, beliefs, and physical attributes. And of course, this was difficult to cope with, but every time I was unfairly treated, it made me more resolved and determined. I did not fight back, but I knew that sooner or later, if I keep on working hard, my efforts will be recognized. And and also I realized that at work I had to work twice as hard, if not more, to be recognized. So it wasn't, I did have some struggles, but I'm very grateful to God that I managed to get around those struggles. Now, in 2008, one of the colleagues in my department nominated me for the Welsh Woman of the Year award. I was one of the finalists for this award, but I didn't get it. At that time, I looked around the room and I realized that there were hardly any ethnic minority women in the room. So at that stage, I thought to myself, wouldn't it be nice if we set up an award ceremony for Asian women in Wales? And I slept on it for 2 years, and then in 2010, I got together with like-minded women, and I also consulted Julie Morgan, who is the AM now, but she used to be MP at that time, and I discussed my project with her, and she was she encouraged me to go ahead. So we had our first award ceremony in 2011, and we have since expanded to include all ethnic minority women. And this is sort of the aim of our organization is to empower and inspire women and girls of ethnic minorities in Wales, and to identify role models for different communities and to facilitate community cohesion and integration. And this photograph was taken in 2019. And Menna, you will see there are a lot more women here than your time. So, and then in 2015, I founded another organization which is called Welsh Ethnic Minority Welsh Women, Ethnic Minority Women in Welsh Healthcare, and it was based on that the women represent an overwhelming majority of healthcare workforce, yet they are significantly underrepresented in leadership positions, particularly at the executive and board level. And unfortunately, ethnic minority women are even more invisible in these positions. So being a black and minority ethnic woman could be a double whammy when trying to reach to the top in the healthcare and higher education institutions. Okay, so to finish my talk, we were funded by the Heritage Lottery Funds 2.5 years ago to do a book, and our book was launched last week. This is based on the life stories of 40 ethnic minority women who were, a majority of them winners for our award ceremony, and some were finalists. This outlines the struggle and achievements, and also reflects the history and the changing faces of ethnic minority culture in Wales. It's a very interesting book. And when I was doing the proofreading, it did make me very emotional because some of these women they've really struggled to achieve their objectives. So I'd like to conclude when look back, that is when I came to this country, and I had no idea what I was going to do. I had no ambitions whatsoever. I was very privileged and honored to be given opportunity to go up the ladder in my career, and at the same time, I'm so happy that I also have the opportunity to make difference to women's life through my work on EMBA and these organizations. So my message here would be that life is full of challenges, but never give up, persevere, and if you believe, the challenges make you more compassionate and resilient. And if you are passionate about your work, you will get there. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Meena. Thank you very much for your slideshow. And as I was listening to you talk, it seems to me that you've come a long way and faced many, many challenges. You outlined some of those in one of your slides about the different bits of discrimination and the different things that you've had to get over. And I think about you growing up in India and coming to the United Kingdom, and then the early death of your husband, and then not just getting your academic qualifications, but being brilliant in your field and contributing to the understanding of some important diseases, and then not just stopping there, but going on to champion other women. You've had to think about juggling home and family like many mothers have to do, all with perhaps the discrimination that comes with being of another, being of an ethnic minority, let's say. So with all of these challenges that you've outlined for us so clearly today, I'm wondering, is there one which is perhaps the hardest or perhaps the most difficult to overcome, and whether you might tell us about your thoughts about that?
One discrimination.
Or one challenge in your life.
I think being a woman was a challenge. Because it's, I remember on a number of occasions, at university, we were having a roundtable discussion, and my voice was not listened to, or even it was, it was, or sometimes I was just bypassed. You're going around the table, and that was very difficult. And a number of times I was, because it was in my habit, when guests were there, I would start serving tea, and I was always taken to be a tea lady there. So it didn't help. Let's put it this way, being a woman, and also. It was, how do you get your point across to people when they are not giving you an opportunity to speak?
Yeah. And I think that's something that will resonate with, lots of women in the audience today, and even the men, as we become more aware of these kind of structural imbalances. Tim and Menna in our first interview spoke quite movingly about some of the challenges that he and the young boys had faced. There was a question about what would he think would overcome that discrimination. So let me ask you a related question. What do you think would be the steps we need to take as individuals and as a society to overcome, let's stick with your chosen subject here of discrimination based on sex and gender. So what need we be doing as individuals and corporately to sort out some of this sex and gender-based discrimination?
I think there are many organizations who are working on it, and I'm very pleased to say that Welsh government has taken a radical step in eliminating racial discrimination, and they have come up with a race equality action plan draft, and the vision of this draft is to make Wales to be anti-racist by 2030. And I emphasize anti-racist, not non-racist. And everybody is encouraged to call out racism. I can give you one example that I was traveling from Colorado, Denver, back to London, and I was traveling with two of my colleagues, both female, and so Susan was the first. Three of us were checking for our flights. Susan checked first. I was in the middle, and Ross was behind me. You would never believe these two ladies were upgraded, and I wasn't. And what do you do so obviously I was upset. I tried to hide my tears, and it was so difficult to comprehend this blatant discrimination. And I studied the economy, and they were in the business class. And at that point, they are my close friends. And now that I have worked on the race equality, I have to go back to them and ask them, why did you not call it out? Yeah. So I'm capable of addressing this to them actually, and I think we all have to make a conscious effort to call out racism, and especially the young people here. It's just because our skin color is different.
Yeah.
We are still human beings. We are not any different.
No, absolutely, really is.
Yeah. So going back to this, and then I have played an important part in this in organizing consultations for the Race Equality Action Plan, and I had 4 consultations: one on health, second one on leadership, then third one is on education, and the fourth one on communities. And we generated a lot of comments, very constructive comments for the draft, and these will be incorporated in the draft, and the draft is now being rewritten to incorporate, taking into account the comments they have received from the public consultation.
Yeah. Gosh, wow, thank you very much for that. I don't know if you've ever heard Desert Island Discs. I'm sure you have. At the end of Desert Island Discs, you're always allowed, not exactly one wish, but I'm going to give you in a second, just to finish the interview here, a chance to just, if you could wish for any one thing, and it could be in any of your chosen fields, I'm going to ask you to leave us with that. But speaking on behalf of us all, it's a real privilege just to have a quick walk through this incredibly rich contribution to our lives that you have made in so many spheres. So on behalf of us all, I'm touched, and I know they are, and before we thank you formally, I'm wondering if you could have any wish at all, anything, any one thing, in a sentence or two, what would it be?
So if you had asked me this question 20 years ago, my answer would have been different. But I'm going to give you, now I truly believe that I would like this world to be anti-racist, healthy, prosperous and having respect for each other.
Amen to that. Meena Upadhyaya, thank you very much indeed.
The trouble with great conversations is that, you know, we've only just started, but if I carry on and we carry on any longer, you'll never come again to one of these. So thank you for your attention, and these issues are the kinds of things that we need to be discussing in this place and in the centre of Cardiff. Whether it's gender, whether it's race equality, whether it's sexuality, whatever these issues are that make life difficult for so many people in this community, we want to be having these conversations.